magnitude 6.4 earthquake has killed at least 25 people and injured hundreds in Indonesia's Aceh province. Dozens are feared to be trapped under rubble. Buildings and roads have been damaged. But thankfully, there's been no tsunami alert. Aceh province was, of course, hardest hit by the 2004 Boxing Day tsunami, which killed more than 230,000 people across Southeast Asia.
The quake reportedly hit around dawn, during dawn prayers, and people were said to have made a kind of rush panic to get to open ground. But as has been seen, some sadly didn't make it. Well, with regard to earthquakes themselves, it has to be said that Indonesia remains very vulnerable. Many structures are built to not very high specifications and are prone to collapse if they're put under this kind of stress.
Parts of the southern United States recovering and cleaning up after powerful storms last week. 4 children were injured in Alabama when a tornado hit their daycare center. In a nearby town, that same storm killed 3 people. The storm moved through 4 states, spawning tornadoes along the way. Tornadoes are among the most destructive types of storms. These twisters of wind have killed more than 1,000 people in the U.S. over the past 2 decades. A new study shows tornado outbreaks are becoming more frequent.
Joplin, Missouri, May 2011. A tornado 1.5 kilometers wide rips through the city. Winds top 320 kilometers per hour.
You see people just walking around stunned.
Businesses, homes, even a hospital destroyed. 158 people dead. In the end, damage was estimated at nearly $3 billion. Just weeks earlier, Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Worried about the stadium, guys.
65 people were killed in a tornado that carved a path through nearly 130 kilometers. It was part of what was dubbed a super outbreak, one of the worst tornado outbreaks in U.S. history. Over the course of 3 days, the southeastern United States saw 349 separate tornadoes.
I've got to say, I've never seen devastation like this. It is heartbreaking.
A study published this month in the journal Science says these so-called tornado clusters are becoming more common. A cluster is when a storm forms 6 or more tornadoes. 50 years ago, there were 40 outbreaks per year. Last year, there were 80, double the number. The authors of the study don't know why, but say it's a trend.
Footage has just emerged showing what is thought to be a meteor falling from the sky in Russia's Siberia. As you can see, this dash cam caught what appears to be a meteorite lighting up the sky. Rescue services say that they've received more than 400 phone calls from eyewitnesses. And this next video shows light flashes above a residential area. And the first question I'd like to ask you, apart from what happened, was I'm quite curious. Meteor or meteorite? What are we dealing with here?
Well, actually, see, a meteorite is something that falls from the space and touches the Earth, while a meteor is the one that breaks up in the sky without really causing any significant touchdown.
There you go. There's an important distinction.
There you go. You learn something new every day, huh? Well, but this one, they keep on falling, Neil. This is the 3rd one since 2013. So the Chelyabinsk, we had a major one that shattered windows and people had to duck for cover underneath their office tables. That explosion burned up at an altitude of 30 to 50 kilometers. Its fragments crashing onto the Earth over a large territory in the Chelyabinsk area, with the more heavy pieces landing around the Lake Chebarkul, which is 78 kilometers west of Chelyabinsk, and the largest piece weighing half a ton. So we can imagine how some of these people at this latest one in eastern Siberia were really fearing for their lives.
That's it, isn't it? Because they're just worried about the impact. If it hits the ground, there is a serious danger.
Oh yeah. And eastern Siberia, of course, Siberian population, 40 million people. That's 27% of the Russian population. A lot of people in the Caucasia region who saw this thing light up the sky in an instant were quite worried.
हाथी के डर से हम लोग पेड़ में सोते हैं, बाल बच्चा को छोड़ करके उन लोग को भी उठाते हैं ऊपर और कम से कम आधा रात तक पहरा करते हैं सब मिलकर।
Crude oil transmission line was shut down in western North Dakota following a leak that spilled oil into a creek, the state said on Tuesday. The size of Monday's leak and the extent of the spill were not yet known. It occurred as Native Americans, climate activists, and other protesters camped around 200 miles away at the site of the controversial Dakota Access Pipeline project over concerns a leak there could contaminate the water supply. The leak that prompted the shutdown was discovered in a 6-inch pipeline operated by Bell Forsh Pipeline Company, the North Dakota Department of Health said. An undetermined amount of crude oil was spilled, according to the state.
A horrific sinkhole tragedy to tell you about. This massive hole swallowing and killing an off-duty sheriff's deputy and injuring 2 others. 69-year-old Dora Nishihara was driving a San Antonio, Texas road late Sunday night when her car went into the hole, trapping her under 12 feet of water. A second car also fell in, injuring that driver and a rescue worker. Officials say that the sinkhole opened after a sewer line apparently ruptured during some heavy rains.
The upper Midwest is being hit by an Arctic blast tonight. North Dakota's getting the worst of it. Schools, highways, and airports have been closed.
It's only fall, but winter is here in the Great Plains. In Douglas County, Minnesota, drivers battled nearly zero visibility highway conditions. In Bismarck, North Dakota, with wind gusts topping 60 miles per hour, whiteout conditions and icy roads made driving nearly impossible.
You can see a semi turning the wrong way here.
Residents are digging out of a blizzard that blanketed parts of the state in 19 inches of snow. Bismarck resident Corey Gertz woke up to a 7-foot snowdrift blocking her door. The Arctic blast is on the move. The cold front is sweeping across eastern Montana to Minnesota with widespread sub-zero wind chill temperatures. Western North Dakota is getting punched with the lowest wind chill, all the way down to 30 below zero.
This morning, one of the gateways to Universal Studios bristling with anti-terror units. The FBI says a threat called into a foreign public safety hotline warned of a terrorist attack on the Red Line metro stop just yards from Universal Studios. Overnight, the area looked like an action movie set. From the air, you could see them overnight, K-9 units and officers with automatic weapons. The FBI announcing the threat Monday night.
The reason that we wanted to bring this information to your attention is that there is the imminent threat that it was to take place tomorrow.
What differentiated this threat from hundreds of others, said authorities, was its specificity and timing. Just hours away, and that it targeted a spot used by tens of thousands every day.
Right now we do have specific information, and we're trying to determine whether it is a credible threat.
Still, LA Mayor Garcetti urging people to go about their daily business and even ride the metro as he will.
In fact, I'll be boarding the Red Line myself in the morning at Universal City at the stop there.
Now, law enforcement officials tell me that the threat was actually broader than just this metro station, but because it had some obvious mistakes, it limited its credibility. Still, we are told to expect beefed up securities here during the holiday season.
Well, there is a huge controversy erupting tonight around a report that the Pentagon tried to bury, alleging massive waste in the defense budget. National security correspondent Jennifer Griffin tells us what it is all about.
A 77-page report prepared by a group of business executives found $125 billion in defense savings over 5 years, enough to pay for 50 Army brigades or 10 aircraft carrier deployments. The businessman who oversaw the Defense Board says the Pentagon didn't want to hear anything about it.
Ash Carter stopped it. We had specifics, and we would love to sit down with anybody. We tried to meet with Secretary Carter, and he would not meet with us.
America's striking new embassy in London comes with a sizable price tag.
The facility, a steel-framed cube surrounded by glass, will soon exceed its more than $1 billion projection, according to House Oversight Committee Chair Jason Chaffetz.
I feel very misled by the State Department because if we aren't opening those doors in February, the cost to the U.S. taxpayer is about $100,000 a day to stay in a facility that we used to own.
That facility, the existing U.S. Embassy, will be used to house our personnel until the new London Embassy is ready. A 6-month lease agreement, according to Chaffetz, accounts for nearly $22 million cost increase. The House Oversight Committee's 2-year investigation found quibbling over a glass wall at the embassy in Indonesia cost tens of millions of dollars in change order requests, and nearly $3 million was spent on art at the U.S. Embassy in Pakistan. One of the biggest bills came from Mexico, where the U.S. government paid $120 million for a 15-acre lot and $56 million on the design of the diplomatic mission.
Meanwhile, the possibility of a deal between Russia and the U.S. over Aleppo looks increasingly bleak after a strange move from Washington.
Let's just look at the situation altogether. First of all, remember when this weekend in Rome, John Kerry put forward certain terms of some kind of deal on Aleppo that, according to Mr. Lavrov, were in line with Russia's overall stance on the situation in Aleppo. And Washington and Moscow were meant to agree on a specific date when they were going to discuss it to finally move from the vagueness to possibly concrete steps. But it's been 3 days, and today Sergei Lavrov told the journalists that these proposals from John Kerry, they simply vanished. Here's how he described what's been going on.
Considering the negotiations on Aleppo, they're like something out of a mystery novel. On December 2nd, John Kerry asked me to support a particular document passed on to us by the Americans. The document is in line with our stance. The next day, we make a public announcement and suggest arranging a meeting with the Americans. Yesterday, we suddenly receive a message from them saying they're not able to meet tomorrow because they've changed their minds. They're revoking the document, and now they have a new one which seems to bring everything back to square one. Once again, buying time for the militants so they can replenish their supplies.
We begin in Syria, where the regime now has control of 70% of rebel-held eastern Aleppo. That's according to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, who says that forces loyal to Bashar al-Assad have seized 5 more districts in the city.
Syria's army is choking the rebels in eastern Aleppo. The fighting is following a familiar pattern. Bombardment from the air, followed by regime offensives on the ground. And the number of dead continues to grow. It's a brutal strategy, but it's working for the regime. It's taken more districts, mostly to the east of the old city of eastern Aleppo, including the strategic Shar neighborhood. The regime now controls 70% of the rebels' former stronghold, and they can expect little mercy. Russia has made it clear anybody who stays in the city will be treated as a terrorist.
Celebrations in the Libyan city of Sirte after government forces finished clearing out Islamic State fighters from their former North African stronghold. Libyan forces were backed by U.S. airstrikes. They gained full control over a final patch of ground in the city on Tuesday after fierce clashes, and some 6 months after the battle for Sirte began. The Libyan forces are dominated by brigades from the city of Misrata. A spokesman says the military campaign will continue until a wider area is secured. Islamic State took over Sirte in early 2015, turning it into its most important base outside the Middle East. The loss of the city is a major blow for the militants. It means the group no longer has any territory in Libya, although it still remains active in parts of the country.
According to a diplomat citing a confidential UN nuclear watchdog report, Iran has shipped 11 tons of heavy water abroad to bring its stock back under a limit set by its landmark nuclear deal with major powers. The International Atomic Energy Agency, which is policing the restrictions placed on Iran's atomic activities under the July 2015 deal, said that last month Iran's stock of heavy water had exceeded the limit of 130 tons for the second time, expressing concerns. Heavy water is used as a moderator in nuclear power stations, like one of Iran's facilities that had its core removed under the deal. Washington has underlined that the deal says excess heavy water must be delivered to a foreign buyer.
In an accusation made on Tuesday, South Korea claims that North Korea has hacked its military intranet and is leaking confidential information. In a news briefing by South Korea's defense ministry, spokesman Moon Sang-yeon told reporters the Ministry of National Defense assembled a joint investigation team, and after the investigation, we've confirmed that some military data, including confidential information, was leaked. North Korea is assumed to be behind this. The South Korean military still has not determined what exact information may have been leaked. If the accusations are correct, this would be the second breach of South Korea's cybersecurity this year. In March, top government officials' smartphones were hacked, according to the country's spy agency, in an effort to steal text messages and voice communications.
Angela Merkel says the burqa should be banned in Germany, quote, wherever it is legally possible. She also toughened her stance on refugees, and she made the statements while bidding for a fourth term as chancellor.
In interpersonal communication, which plays a fundamental role here, we show our face. And that's why a full veil is inappropriate in our country. It should be banned wherever legally possible. It does not belong in our country.
The German chancellor, for the first time, expressing her full support for a ban on full face coverings in Germany, the so-called burqa ban, like what there is in neighboring France. Now, this is somewhat of a change in position for the chancellor. She's never gone this far. Well, she has been in the past highly critical of the full face veil. She's also said that to ban it would be difficult because of the idea of religious freedom. Well, this has changed now, and we've seen others in her parties for the past year calling for such a ban. Now, what this really indicates here leading up to federal elections in Germany next year is the pressure that the chancellor is facing from right-wing populists here in Germany. As we've seen in other neighboring European countries, as well as in the United States, right-wing populists have made dramatic gains in recent months and years. So many here have been highly critical of the chancellor's refugee policy. So the full-face veil ban is something that those people have been calling for.
Jobs and a better economy is what Donald Trump says he can deliver. He's not the only one doing the talking now. The head of Japan's SoftBank says the bank will invest $50 billion in startup companies in America and create 50,000 jobs. Bank officials say the deregulation Trump is focusing on helped push the commitment. Trump says this is a direct result of his election. SoftBank owns 82% of Sprint, and Wall Street is hoping this will jumpstart talks about a Sprint T-Mobile possible merger. This is another example of the president-elect getting personally involved to create American jobs or save them.
Donald Trump rarely walks his guests down to the lobby after meeting with them. But on Tuesday, the president-elect made sure to give this CEO a personal send-off.
This is Masa of SoftBank from Japan, and he's just agreed to invest $50 billion in the United States and 50,000 jobs.
SoftBank is a telecommunications and internet corporation. The president-elect seemingly wanted his guests to talk to the press.
If you'd like to speak to him, you can. You may want to say hello.
Yes, thank you.
But we didn't get much more information on the very large commitment.
We invest into the new startup companies in the United States.
According to a handout Sohn showed reporters, the plan is spread over the next 4 years. Sohn had told reporters he wanted to celebrate Trump's new job by making the commitment.
He would do a lot of deregulation. I said, this is great. United States, U.S., will become great again.